We live in a world obsessed with speed, faster results, faster growth, faster answers, faster everything. From the time we're kids, we're told that faster is better, that the person who runs the fastest wins the race. The company that scales the fastest dominates the market. The individual who responds the fastest proves their worth. We admire speed, we glorify it, and in doing so, we forget to ask a fundamental question: where is all this speed taking us? Imagine running on a treadmill at full sprint. You're sweating, your heart is racing, your legs are burning, and it feels like you're moving at incredible pace. But when you look up, you realize something: you haven't actually gone anywhere, and that's the danger of speed without direction. It gives us the illusion of progress, but leaves us stuck in the exact same place. The truth is, direction beats speed every time. Because speed without clarity is chaos. Speed without vision is wasted energy. Direction, on the other hand, may not always feel as exciting, but it ensures that every step you take, whether fast or slow, is actually moving you closer to where you want to be. Think about this in the context of your own life. Have you ever worked harder than you thought possible, only to look back months or years later and realize you weren't proud of the result? Maybe you climbed a ladder quickly, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Maybe you hustled, chased, sacrificed, sprinted, but when you finally arrived, it wasn't the destination you truly wanted. That's the cost of speed without direction, arriving somewhere fast, only to realize you don't even want to be there. Now compare that to someone who moves more slowly but with intention. Someone who pauses to ask themselves, why am I doing this? Where is this taking me? What do I actually want? Their progress may not look as flashy in the beginning. They might be the last one across the starting line. But over time, they end up ahead, not because they moved the fastest, but because they were always moving in the right direction. Direction creates meaning. It creates focus. It creates confidence. Without it, speed is meaningless. I once met a young professional who told me she wanted to become successful as quickly as possible. When I asked her what success meant to her, she froze. She had never stopped to define it. Was it money? Was it recognition? Was it freedom? She didn't know. All she knew was that she wanted it fast, and so she ran, job to job, opportunity to opportunity, chasing the next shiny thing. She was moving quickly, but in circles. Years later, she told me she was exhausted, confused, and unfulfilled. And it wasn't because she lacked effort. It was because she lacked direction. Clarity is what separates progress from motion. When you know where you're going, you can move forward with confidence, even if your pace is slower than others. Think about a hiker climbing a mountain. One hiker is sprinting without a map. They're fast, agile, and determined, but they don't know which path leads to the summit. Another hiker studies the terrain, chooses the right trail, and begins walking at a steady pace. Who reaches the top first? Not the one moving fastest, but the one moving in the right direction. We often confuse urgency with importance. We mistake speed for progress. But the truth is, a steady, consistent pace aligned with vision always wins. It's the tortoise and the hare all over again. The hare has speed, but the tortoise has direction and consistency. And in the end, it's the tortoise who wins. There's a reason people who achieve lasting success rarely do it overnight. They aren't sprinting. They're moving deliberately, building step by step, course correcting when they need to. They don't need to be the fastest because they know that being on the right path matters far more than running down the wrong one quickly. And that brings me to another truth. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop moving. Sometimes slowing down, pausing, or even standing still is the smartest strategy because it gives you the chance to reorient, to check the compass, to ask, am I still moving in the right direction? Speed is seductive because it makes us feel like we're in control, like we're winning. But pausing takes courage, realigning takes humility. And yet those are the moments that prevent us from drifting so far off course that we can't come back. Direction is also what allows us to endure challenges. When you know where you're headed, setbacks don't feel like dead ends. They feel like part of the journey. You're more willing to struggle, to persevere, because you believe the struggle is taking you somewhere meaningful. Speed, on the other hand, makes you impatient. When obstacles show up, you see them as delays, as failures, because your focus is only on getting there faster, not on why you're going there in the first place. I often think about people who run marathons. Very few of them are sprinting the whole way. In fact, if you try to sprint, you'll burn out before you're even halfway through. The ones who finish, who endure, who cross the line with pride, are the ones who pace themselves, who focus not on speed, but on steady movement in the right direction. And when they cross the finish line, it's not just about how fast they got there. It's about the meaning of having completed the journey. In life, too, there are no prizes for arriving quickly at the wrong destination. What matters is arriving at a place that reflects who you are, what you value, and what you were striving for all along. That's why direction matters more than speed. So how do we find direction? It starts with asking the deeper questions. What do I value? What kind of impact do I want to have? What will matter to me at the end of this journey? These questions don't always have quick answers. They require reflection. They require honesty. They require the willingness to admit that maybe, just maybe, we've been sprinting in the wrong direction. Once you have clarity, speed becomes a tool, not a distraction. Because then speed serves your vision instead of replacing it. Then every step, no matter how fast or slow, has purpose. And here's the beauty of it. When you move with direction, you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. Their pace doesn't matter because you're not in their race. You're in yours. You might see others passing you, sprinting ahead, celebrating quick wins, but you can smile and keep moving because you know that slow or fast, you're going to a destination that matters to you. I'll leave you with this thought. Imagine you're driving a car. Would you rather drive at 100 miles per hour in the wrong direction or 30 miles per hour towards home? The answer is obvious, and yet in our lives, too often we choose the first option. We chase speed without checking the map. But if we're honest with ourselves, we don't just want to move fast. We want to arrive where we're supposed to be. Direction beats speed every time. Because speed is only exciting for a moment. But direction gives meaning to a lifetime. So as you move forward, whether in your career, your relationships, your goals, or your dreams, don't ask, how fast can I get there? Ask instead, where do I want to go? Once you know that, every step, fast or slow, will take you exactly where you're meant to be. When we look around in today's world, it feels like everyone is in a hurry. We rush from one meeting to another, one task to another, one goal to another. We scroll faster, consume faster, and try to achieve faster. The narrative is everywhere: move quickly or you'll be left behind. It sounds reasonable, even motivating. But there's a trap hidden inside it. Because the question we don't often pause to ask is this: left behind by who and in what race? Speed is intoxicating. It makes us feel powerful, efficient, unstoppable. But speed can also be misleading. If you've ever been on a train moving alongside another train, you know that sometimes it feels like you're racing ahead, only to realize you're actually standing still. That's what speed without direction feels like: movement without meaning, energy without purpose. It looks impressive in the moment, but when you stop to look back, you realize you're no closer to the life you truly wanted. Direction is what gives speed its value. Without direction, speed is just noise. But with direction, even the smallest steps forward become progress. It's the compass that tells us where to point our efforts. It's the map that prevents us from climbing the wrong mountain. Because the worst outcome is not moving too slowly. The worst outcome is moving quickly in the wrong direction. I remember a conversation with a young entrepreneur who proudly told me his company was growing at record speed. Investors loved it. The market noticed and people around him applauded. But when I asked him what problem he was solving, why his company existed in the first place, he stumbled. He had metrics, charts, numbers, but no clarity. Years later, I heard his company collapsed. Not because he wasn't fast enough, but because he never paused to ask whether he was running in the right direction. Clarity is underrated. We don't celebrate it as much as we do hustle or speed. But clarity is what separates achievement from regret. When you know where you're going, you don't need to run. You just need to move steadily, intentionally. And here's the paradox: when you move with clarity, people often think you're moving slower. But in reality, you're saving yourself years of wasted effort, because every step you take is aligned with your destination. Think about flying an airplane. If the pilot is off by just 1 degree in direction, the plane could land hundreds of miles away from the intended destination. And it doesn't matter how fast that plane flies. Speed only magnifies the mistake. The faster you go, the further you drift. That's why direction is always more important than speed. The temptation to chase speed comes from our environment. We compare ourselves constantly. Who got promoted first? Who hit their goals faster? Who's further along by a certain age? We treat life like it's a race with checkpoints and deadlines. But here's the truth: it's not. Life has no fixed finish line. It's not about being first. It's about making sure you're on a path that's worth traveling. There's a story about 2 woodcutters. The first one swung his axe furiously all day, moving quickly, never stopping to rest. The second one swung more slowly, and every hour he paused to sharpen his axe. At the end of the day, the second woodcutter had chopped more wood. Why? Because his direction was clear. Sharpness mattered more than speed. This is how life works too. Pausing, reflecting, sharpening your clarity. These things may look slower in the moment, but they create more meaningful results in the long run. One of the most dangerous traps is confusing being busy with being productive. We wear business like a badge of honor. I'm so busy, we say, as if it proves we're important, as if it means we're moving forward. But business without direction is just noise. You can fill your calendar, check off tasks, stay in motion all day, and still end up further from where you want to be. Productivity is not about speed, it's about alignment. And alignment requires courage, because slowing down to find direction means stepping off the treadmill that everyone else is running on. It means risking being judged as lazy, unambitious, or slow. But here's the irony: the people who dare to stop and choose direction often end up further ahead than the ones who never pause to think. They're not distracted by detours. They don't waste years climbing the wrong ladder. They may move slower, but they move true. Direction also creates resilience. When you know your why, obstacles don't stop you, they just redirect you. Speed makes us fragile because it's fueled by urgency. When things slow us down, we get frustrated, discouraged, impatient. But when you're guided by direction, you understand setbacks as part of the journey. You may walk slower, but you never stop walking. Think about explorers navigating the oceans before GPS existed. They didn't always move quickly. Sometimes storms forced them to slow down. Sometimes winds pushed them off course. But they always kept their eyes on the stars, their fixed point of direction. That's what allowed them to arrive. Not speed, not luck, direction. And here's the most important part: direction gives fulfillment. Because reaching a destination quickly doesn't matter if it's the wrong one. So many people achieve their goals and still feel empty inside. They got there fast, but there wasn't where they wanted to be. Fulfillment comes not from speed, but from knowing that when you arrive, it will mean something, that you'll look around and say, yes, this is where I was meant to be. So the real question isn't, how fast can I get there? The real question is, where am I going? If you can answer that with honesty and clarity, then speed becomes irrelevant. Some will pass you along the way. Some will appear ahead. That's fine, because your race isn't theirs, your finish line isn't theirs. The pace doesn't matter, the direction does. Let me leave you with this imagery. Imagine two people in a forest. One runs as fast as possible, crashing through trees, stumbling, sweating, desperate to find the way out. The other pauses, climbs a tree, looks around, and chooses a path. One looks faster, one is actually smarter. And who do you think gets out of the forest first? That's the power of direction. Direction beats speed every time. Not because speed doesn't matter, but because speed without clarity is wasted. But direction without speed, that still gets you where you need to go. It ensures that your energy, your time, your life is spent on things that matter. So the next time you feel the pressure to hurry, to rush, to sprint, pause. Ask yourself, am I moving in the right direction? If the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter how fast you're going. You'll get there. And if the answer is no, then speed is the last thing you need. What you need is to stop, realign, and choose your path. Because when you do, you'll discover something liberating, that you don't need to be the fastest to live a meaningful life. You just need to be moving in the right direction. And that will always, always beat speed. We live in a culture that glorifies acceleration. We measure progress in quarters, weeks, even days. We want faster results, faster promotions, faster growth, faster recognition. Everywhere we look, the message is clear: speed is success. But let me ask you a simple question. If you're heading in the wrong direction, does it really matter how fast you're going? Speed feels exciting. It makes us feel alive. The rush of moving quickly convinces us we're doing something meaningful. But here's the problem. Speed is only valuable when it's paired with the right direction. Without that, it's nothing more than wasted energy. The faster you move in the wrong direction, the further you end up from where you actually want to be. I once knew a man who had a gift for hard work. He was ambitious, determined, and faster than anyone else around him. He'd be the first in the office and the last to leave. He rose through the ranks at lightning speed. On the surface, he was winning. But one day, in a quiet conversation, he admitted something that shocked me. He said, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. I've been sprinting so hard, but I don't know if I even want the finish line I'm running toward. That's the danger of speed without direction. It can take you somewhere you never wanted to go. Direction is the difference between movement and progress. Movement looks busy, but progress is intention. You can spend years moving, running, grinding, only to find you're no closer to the life you wanted. Or you can take smaller, slower, deliberate steps that actually bring you to the place you're meant to be. Think about this in simple terms. Imagine you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean. You row with all your strength, putting every ounce of energy into each stroke. But if your boat is pointed in the wrong direction, every stroke only takes you further from your destination. Now imagine you pause, adjust your compass, and row steadily, even if slower. Every stroke, no matter how small, takes you closer to the shore you actually want to reach. That's the power of direction. The challenge is that speed is visible. It's easy to see and measure. We celebrate people who move fast. They get the headlines. They get the applause. Direction, on the other hand, is quieter. It's invisible at first. It doesn't grab attention the same way, but it's far more powerful, because direction ensures that when you arrive, you'll be proud of where you are. Let's take an example from history. When explorers first set out to cross uncharted seas, speed was never the measure of their success. Many ships sailed fast, but ended up lost, stranded, or destroyed. The ones who succeeded weren't the fastest. They were the ones who had the courage to pause, to look at the stars, to realign their course, to move steadily in the right direction. Their success wasn't measured in speed. It was measured in accuracy. The same is true for us. We often get caught up in the comparison game. We look at our peers and think, they're moving faster than me. They've achieved more by now. I need to catch up. But catch up to what? Catch up to where? If you're on a different path, their speed is irrelevant. You can't compare journeys when the destinations aren't the same. The only race worth running is the one that leads you to your own definition of fulfillment. And fulfillment isn't about speed. Fulfillment is about alignment. It's about looking back at the end of the road and saying, that was worth it. Every step took me where I was meant to go. That feeling doesn't come from being first. It comes from being true. Speed also has a hidden cost. It burns us out. When the only goal is to go faster, we sacrifice our health, our relationships, and sometimes even our values. We tell ourselves it's temporary, that once we get there, we'll slow down, but somehow there keeps moving further away without direction. There is no finish line. It's just an endless sprint that never delivers what we hoped for. Direction changes that. Direction creates patience. When you know why you're doing something, you're willing to go slow if necessary. You're willing to endure setbacks because you understand they're part of the journey. Think of a marathon runner. The ones who finish aren't the ones who sprint from the start. They're the ones who pace themselves, conserve energy, and keep their eyes on the finish line. Their direction sustains them far longer than speed ever could. And direction doesn't mean rigidity. It doesn't mean you'll never adjust your path. In fact, it's the opposite. Having direction gives you the freedom to pause and correct course when needed. Speed makes us stubborn. We're moving too fast to stop, too invested to rethink. But direction allows us to be flexible. It gives us permission to slow down, to shift, to adapt. Because the goal isn't speed, the goal is meaning. Here's another way to think about it. If you're climbing a mountain, it doesn't matter how fast you reach the top if it's the wrong mountain. Too many people get to the top of a mountain only to realize it wasn't the one they wanted to climb in the first place. They worked, they hustled, they pushed, but at the end they feel empty. That's the cost of ignoring direction. But when you choose your mountain carefully, when you're clear on why you're climbing, then every step, no matter how long it takes, feels purposeful. And when you reach the top, you don't just feel relief. You feel fulfillment. So what does it take to choose direction over speed? It takes reflection. It takes the willingness to ask hard questions. Why am I doing this? What matters to me? What kind of life do I want to create? These aren't questions with quick answers. They take time, patience, and honesty. But without them, we risk sprinting towards someone else's dream instead of our own. Direction also requires courage. Courage to be different. Courage to go slower than the crowd. Courage to walk your own path even when others don't understand. Because when everyone else is rushing, slowing down looks strange. It looks like weakness. But in reality, it's strength. It's the strength to choose meaning over momentum, purpose over pressure. And once you find your direction, speed stops being the goal. Speed becomes the byproduct. You'll move faster naturally because you're no longer second guessing. You're no longer wasting energy on detours. Every step has clarity, and clarity creates momentum. That's the irony when you stop chasing speed and start focusing on direction. You often end up moving faster than you imagined. But even if you don't, it doesn't matter. Because you'll know something deeper, that your journey is yours. That your steps are leading somewhere worthwhile. That when you arrive, it won't just be fast, it will be right. Direction beats speed every time. Because speed is about now. Direction is about forever. Speed impresses people for a moment. Direction leaves a legacy. So the next time you feel the urge to go faster, stop. Ask yourself, am I running towards something that matters, or am I just running? And if the answer isn't clear, pause. Reline, sharpen the compass. Because one clear step forward in the right direction is worth more than 1,000 fast steps toward nowhere. At the end of your life, no one will remember how quickly you got there. They'll remember whether you got to the right place. And that's why direction, not speed, is the truest measure of progress. There's a simple truth about life that most of us ignore. We confuse movement with progress. We confuse being busy with being effective. We confuse speed with success. It feels good to be in motion, to be running, to be sprinting past others, but motion without direction is just noise. It makes us tired, it makes us busy, but it doesn't bring us closer to where we want to be. Think about the way people drive in traffic. Some drivers swerve between lanes, constantly accelerating, braking, rushing ahead. They look fast. They look determined, and yet often you catch up to them at the same red light. Their speed didn't actually get them further, it just burned more fuel. Meanwhile, the driver who stayed calm, steady, and deliberate arrived at the same destination with less stress, less waste, and more energy left to enjoy the ride. Life is no different. Speed is a trap because it rewards us with instant gratification. Moving quickly feels like winning, but direction is what truly matters. Direction ensures that no matter your pace, you're always closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Without direction, speed only takes you further away from your true destination. I once spoke with a man who had spent 2 decades climbing the corporate ladder. He was relentless, efficient, faster than his peers. He got the promotions, the titles, the salary. On paper, he looked unstoppable. But when I asked him how it felt to have achieved all this, he grew quiet. After a long pause, he said, "It feels like I climbed all the way up, only to realize I was on the wrong ladder." He was fast, yes. But he wasn't aligned. That's the danger of chasing speed. Sometimes it gets you to the wrong place faster. Direction creates meaning. When you have clarity about where you're going, speed becomes secondary. You no longer measure your worth by how quickly you arrive. You measure it by the value of the destination. Progress, not pace, becomes the goal. And progress is deeply personal. It can't be compared to anyone else's timeline. We see this play out in every area of life. In careers, people chase quick promotions without asking if the role aligns with their values. In relationships, people rush into commitments without considering if the foundation is strong. In personal goals, people sprint toward achievements without asking if those achievements will bring fulfillment. Speed pushes us to chase the visible, the immediate, the things that earn applause from others. Direction pushes us to chase the invisible, the meaningful, the things that earn peace within ourselves. There's a famous fable about 2 men tasked with cutting down a forest. The first man sharpened his axe for an hour, then began chopping slowly and steadily. The second man laughed at him and started hacking immediately, swinging as fast as he could. At first, the second man looked like he was ahead. But as the day went on, his dull axe slowed him down, and he grew tired. The first man, who took the time to align his tool with his goal, ended up cutting more wood. That's direction over speed. Taking the time to prepare, to align, to choose carefully before acting. Direction also creates resilience. When you're clear on why you're moving, setbacks don't knock you down the same way. If your only goal is speed, every obstacle feels like failure. Every delay feels unbearable. But if your goal is to arrive at the right destination, obstacles become part of the journey. They may slow you down, but they don't stop you. You keep moving because you're not running for the sake of running, you're running for the sake of meaning. Think about explorers before modern navigation. They had no satellites, no GPS. What they had were stars. Those stars gave them direction. Sometimes storms slowed them down. Sometimes winds pushed them off course. But as long as they kept their eyes on the stars, they always found their way back. They may not have been the fastest, but they arrived. Speed didn't save them, direction did. The irony is that when you focus on direction, speed often comes naturally. Because when you know where you're going, you waste less energy. You don't take as many detours. You don't waste years chasing things that don't matter. Clarity creates momentum, and momentum feels a lot like speed, but it's grounded in purpose. But even if you don't move faster, it doesn't matter. Because speed is temporary. Direction is permanent. Speed can make you impressive for a season. Direction makes you fulfilled for a lifetime. I think about students who rush to finish their degrees, professionals who rush to get rich, creators who rush to go viral. They push for speed, but often burn out or feel empty once they get there. And then I think about the people who took their time, who followed their curiosity, who trusted the process. They may have seemed slower, but when they arrived with purpose. And that made all the difference. Direction also protects you from comparison. When you don't know where you're going, you look at everyone else's speed as a measure of your worth. You feel behind, inadequate, less than. But when your direction is clear, their pace doesn't matter. Their race isn't your race. Their finish line isn't your finish line. You stop comparing because you realize you're not chasing the same thing. And that freedom to run your own race at your own pace is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Life isn't about getting somewhere quickly. It's about getting somewhere that matters. At the end of your life, no one will hand you a medal for arriving early. But you will have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I spend my life going the right direction? That's what will matter. So how do we choose direction over speed? We pause. We reflect. We ask better questions. Instead of asking, how fast can I get there? We ask, where do I want to go? Why do I want to go there? Who do I want to become along the way? These questions slow us down, yes, but they save us years of wasted energy. They ensure that when we run, when we sprint, when we push ourselves, it's for something worth chasing. It takes courage to choose direction in a world that worships speed. It takes courage to slow down when everyone else is rushing. But courage is what separates those who live with regret from those who live with fulfillment. And once you find your direction, something magical happens. You no longer care about being the fastest. You care about being true. Direction beats speed every time, because speed is about the moment. Direction is about the meaning. Speed is about the crowd. Direction is about the self. Speed fades. Direction lasts. So the next time you feel pressure to move faster, stop and ask, am I even moving in the right direction? Because if the answer is yes, you can relax. You'll get there in time. And if the answer is no, the bravest thing you can do is stop running and choose a better path. One step in the right direction is worth more than 1,000 steps in the wrong one. And that's why direction, not speed, is the truest measure of progress. We live in an age where everything is measured by how fast it happens. We want instant results, instant recognition, instant gratification. We want to lose weight quickly, build businesses quickly, fall in love quickly, achieve dreams quickly. The faster, the better. Or at least that's what we've been taught. But let me ask you, if you're moving fast in the wrong direction, are you really getting anywhere? Speed feels good. It gives us adrenaline. It makes us feel alive, important, productive. We see others moving quickly and we think, I need to catch up, I need to do more faster. But here's the truth: speed is only valuable when paired with the right direction. Without direction, speed is nothing but movement, and movement without meaning is wasted time. I once spoke with a young professional who was desperate to get promoted as quickly as possible. She worked long hours, volunteered for everything, sacrificed her weekends, and climbed the ladder faster than most of her peers. But when she finally got the title she wanted, she told me something surprising. She said, I don't even like this job. I don't know why I wanted it so badly. She wasn't fulfilled because she had chased speed instead of clarity. She had been running, but she didn't stop to ask, where am I running to? That's the trap so many of us fall into. We confuse being busy with being effective. We confuse fast results with meaningful progress. But business doesn't equal purpose, and quick wins don't always equal long-term success. Direction is what turns effort into progress. Direction is what makes the difference between activity and achievement. Think of it like a road trip. You could drive 100 miles per hour all day long. But if you're heading east when you should be heading west, you'll only end up further away from where you want to be. On the other hand, you could drive at 30 miles per hour in the right direction and eventually arrive exactly where you need to be. That's why direction beats speed every time. The challenge is that direction requires patience. It requires reflection. It requires slowing down long enough to ask the uncomfortable questions. Why am I doing this? Where do I actually want to end up? What truly matters to me? Speed is easier because it distracts us. It keeps us moving so fast that we don't have to face those deeper questions. But the problem is, without asking them, we risk spending years sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't matter. When you focus on direction, your steps don't need to be perfect, and they don't need to be fast. They just need to be aligned. Every small intentional step compounds over time. That's how real progress is made, not by rushing, but by consistently moving forward in the right way. It's like planting a tree. You can't make it grow faster by yelling at it or by tugging on its branches. You plant it, water it, nurture it, and give it time. Direction, patience, and consistency create growth. Speed doesn't. There's also a dangerous side to chasing speed burnout. When your only measure of success is how quickly you achieve something, you push yourself relentlessly. You sacrifice your health, your relationships, your peace of mind. You burn out. And when you finally reach your goal, you're too exhausted to enjoy it. Direction prevents that. When you're guided by clarity and purpose, you move at a sustainable pace. You understand that the journey is as important as the destination. You don't just want to arrive. You want to arrive whole. Direction also creates resilience. If your only focus is speed, every setback feels like failure. Every obstacle feels unbearable because it slows you down. But when you're focused on direction, setbacks become part of the path. You don't see them as proof you're failing. You see them as opportunities to learn, to course correct, to grow stronger. With direction, even detours have meaning. There's a story I love about two hikers. One charges up the mountain as fast as possible, sprinting at the start, trying to reach the summit before anyone else. The other hiker studies the trail, chooses the right path, and begins walking at a steady pace. Hours later, the first hiker is exhausted, lost, and frustrated. The second hiker, though slower, reaches the summit with strength left to enjoy the view. That's the power of direction. It outlasts speed. Speed also locks us into comparison. We measure ourselves against others who got married first, who bought a house sooner, who got the promotion earlier. But those comparisons are meaningless if we're not headed in the same direction. Your journey is yours. Your finish line isn't the same as mine. Direction frees you from comparison because it reminds you you're not racing anyone else. The only race that matters is the one that leads you to a life you're proud of. And here's the paradox: once you know your direction, you often end up moving faster than before because clarity eliminates wasted effort. You stop running in circles. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You focus your energy on what does, and that creates momentum. But even if you don't move faster, it doesn't matter, because you know every step is meaningful. At the end of your life, no one will remember how quickly you got somewhere. They won't say, she arrived 5 years earlier than expected. They'll say, she lived with purpose, she lived with meaning, she arrived where she was meant to be. Direction is what makes that possible. So how do we begin to choose direction over speed? It starts with honesty. Honesty with ourselves about what we value, what matters, what kind of legacy we want to leave behind. It starts with asking, if I achieved all the things I'm chasing right now, would I even be happy? Would I even be proud? If the answer is no, then speed is irrelevant. What you need is a new direction. Direction also requires courage. Courage to go slower than the crowd. Courage to step off the treadmill everyone else is on. Courage to redefine success not by how quickly you achieve something, but by whether it matters when you do. It's not easy because the world will try to convince you otherwise. The world will cheer for speed. But you have to remind yourself, speed impresses people. Direction fulfills you. Direction beats speed every time, because speed without direction is empty. It's impressive for a moment, but meaningless in the end. Direction ensures that when you look back, you'll be proud not just of how far you went, but of where you arrived. So the next time you feel the pressure to rush, pause. Ask yourself, am I running fast or am I moving true? Because one slow, deliberate step in the right direction is worth more than 1,000 fast steps in the wrong one. At the end of the day, success isn't about being the fastest to the finish line. It's about knowing you ran the right race. It's about knowing that when you arrive, it's exactly where you were meant to be.